Following months of speculation that a Rambo prequel was finally in the works, it looks like the project officially has its star. Sources close to deadline revealed that Noah Centineo is set to headline John Rambo, a film that will trace the origin story of one of cinema's most iconic action heroes. The movie will be directed by Sisu filmmaker Jalmari Helander, with a screenplay written by Rory Haines Sohrab Noshirvani, who previously worked on The Mauritanian and Black Adam. The plan, according to insiders, is to begin shooting in early 2026, with Thailand being eyed as the main filming location. It's a fitting choice, considering much of Rambo's cinematic journey has ties to Southeast Asia, especially given his experiences during the Vietnam War. Although no distribution deal has been signed yet, Lionsgate is reportedly the frontrunner to land the project. The studio has a long history with the Rambo franchise, having released the last 2 films and worked with Helander on Sisu, so it makes perfect sense they'd want to continue that partnership. Details about the plot are still being kept tightly under wraps, but the film is said to be an origin story centered on a young John Rambo during his time in Vietnam. It's a chance to dig into what shaped the man before he became the battle-hardened soldier audiences first met in First Blood. That 1982 classic, based on David Morrell's 1972 novel of the same name, introduced audiences to Rambo, a traumatized Vietnam veteran and former Green Beret who ends up in a deadly conflict with local law enforcement after being harassed by a small-town sheriff. Sylvester Stallone's performance turned the character into a cultural phenomenon, and over the course of 5 films, the Rambo franchise brought in over $800 million globally. The most recent entry, Rambo Last Blood, grossed $92 million worldwide, proving that even decades later, audiences still had a soft spot for the emotionally scarred warrior. Produced by Millennium Media and Stallone's Balboa Productions, Last Blood marked what many assumed would be the end of Rambo's violent journey. But now, it looks like the story is coming full circle by going back to where it all began. As for Stallone's involvement in this new prequel, sources say he's aware of the project but won't be participating in any official capacity. When Deadline first broke the news of the package earlier this year, insiders noted that Stallone had been informed about it but wasn't involved behind the scenes, and that remains true today. He's also been notified about Centineo's casting, though he hasn't publicly commented on it yet. Behind the camera, the production team includes a mix of franchise veterans and new names. Kevin King Templeton, who has produced several of Stallone's recent films, is attached on behalf of Templeton Media. Longtime Millennium figures Les Weldon, Jonathan Younger, and Avi Lerner are also producing. Meanwhile, executive producers include Trevor Short and Bonfire legends Dallas Saunier and Amanda Presmick, adding an extra layer of creative weight to the project. For Noah Centineo, this marks a major career milestone. Known primarily for his breakout roles in the To All the Boys I've Loved Before films and the Netflix spy series The Recruit, Centineo's career has been on a steady upward climb. But stepping into the combat boots of John Rambo could be the role that truly launches him into A-list territory. It's a major shift for the actor, moving from romantic comedies and streaming dramas to one of the most intense and revered action characters ever created. Centineo's upcoming projects already show that he's branching out in bold directions. He's set to play Ken Masters in Legendary's live-action Street Fighter movie, where he'll star alongside Jason Momoa and Andrew Koji. The film, directed by Kateo Sakurai, is also slated for a 2026 release, the same year John Rambo is expected to hit theaters. So, 2026 is shaping up to be a huge year for him, with 2 major franchises potentially redefining his public image. In addition to that, Centineo recently appeared in Warfare, an A24 military drama directed by Ray Mendoza and Alex Garland. He also starred in and produced Our Hero Balthazar, the directorial debut of Oscar Boyson, under his own Arkham production banner. That film premiered at the 2025 Tribeca Film Festival, signaling Centineo's growing interest in taking on diverse and challenging material, something that could serve him well as he tackles a character as psychologically complex as John Rambo. For context, the Rambo franchise has always been more than just explosions and machine guns. The original First Blood film had a surprisingly tragic and emotional core, focusing on how war veterans struggled to reintegrate into society after returning home. Rambo wasn't just a soldier, he was a broken man, shaped by trauma, alienation, and survival instincts that no longer fit into the world around him. That emotional depth is what made Stallone's portrayal so unforgettable, and it's also what makes Centineo's casting so intriguing. He's not the obvious choice. Centineo doesn't look like a carbon copy of Stallone, and he's better known for his boyish charm than gritty intensity. But that could actually work in his favor. A prequel about Rambo's youth doesn't need a hardened killing machine. It needs a young soldier still figuring out who he is and what he's capable of. Centineo's ability to balance vulnerability with quiet determination, something he showed in The Recruit, could give audiences a fresh and more human side of Rambo that's rarely been explored on screen. The choice of Jalmari Helander as director also adds an exciting twist. His work on Sisu proved that he knows how to craft brutal, visually striking action while keeping his characters grounded. That film, which followed a lone Finnish soldier who becomes a one-man army against Nazi forces, was essentially a spiritual cousin to Rambo in tone and energy. So, it's not hard to imagine Helander applying the same relentless intensity to a Vietnam War setting, blending gritty realism with emotional storytelling. Writers Rory Haines and Sohrab Noshirvani bring another layer of credibility to the project. Their past scripts have been praised for emotional depth and political nuance, which bodes well for a story that will likely explore Rambo's early trauma and the moral gray areas of war. Together, this creative team seems well positioned to honor the legacy of Rambo while also giving it a new identity for a modern audience. What's particularly interesting about this prequel is how it might reframe Rambo's legacy. For nearly 4 decades, Sylvester Stallone's version of the character has been synonymous with muscle-bound heroism and relentless vengeance. But going back to the beginning offers a chance to show a very different Rambo, one who hasn't yet become the myth, one still grappling with fear, loyalty, and the chaos of combat. It's the kind of story that could add depth to the entire franchise rather than just retreading familiar ground. Centineo's casting also signals a generational shift. Stallone, now 79, has carried the torch for a long time, but the appetite for stories about Rambo hasn't faded. Fans still connect with the character's outsider spirit and moral code. So, passing that mantle to a younger actor allows the franchise to stay relevant while exploring new emotional territory. And even though some longtime fans might be skeptical about seeing anyone but Stallone in the role, the idea of watching a young Rambo evolve into the man we know could win people over, if it's done right. Of course, the pressure on Centineo is massive. Taking over a role that Stallone built from the ground up isn't easy, especially one so tied to a specific look, voice, and attitude. But Hollywood history shows that even the most iconic characters can evolve. Think about how Harrison Ford's Han Solo eventually got a younger version in Solo: A Star Wars Story, or how James Bond and Batman have been reimagined countless times without losing their essence. If John Rambo manages to balance respect for Stallone's legacy with a bold new vision, it could rejuvenate the entire franchise. At the same time, the movie's success will depend on how it handles tone. The original First Blood wasn't a typical action movie, it was almost a psychological drama with bursts of violence. Later sequels leaned heavily into spectacle, but if John Rambo aims to show who the man was before he became a symbol of war, it might bring the story closer to its roots. That approach could appeal not just to fans of classic action, but also to audiences looking for something more grounded and character-driven. In the end, the announcement of John Rambo marks both a continuation and a reinvention of a legendary saga. With Noah Centineo stepping into the role, Jalmari Helander directing, and a script from a pair of respected writers, the film has all the right ingredients to surprise people. It's not just another reboot, it's a chance to explore what made Rambo human before he became a hero. And that's that for today's video. Thanks for watching, and we will see you in the next one.